3 years ago this month, with pandemic fears at their peak, nearly all public schools in the United States were closed. But Tracy Smith finds that even as COVID recedes, our children are still paying the price.
It sure looks like the pandemic is over. Stadiums are open again. Crowds are everywhere and hardly a mask in sight. But COVID hurt a lot of things you can't easily see, especially in schools.
I feel like I just need to stand on a mountaintop and just yell to folks, take this seriously. Everything is at stake right now. And
Jeffrey Canada knows. He's the founder of the Harlem Children's Zone in Manhattan.
We all knew that the pandemic was going to affect education, but how bad is it?
We've got the data now, and things are bad. They're actually worse than most of us thought. In fact, I would tell you that we have an education crisis right now.
The actual numbers vary by community, but according to a nationwide test given to 4th and 8th graders, reading skills dropped to the lowest point in 30 years. And in math, nearly 40% of 8th graders couldn't understand basic concepts, the worst performance since testing began back in '69.
This is not just poor kids who are living in the urban centers. It's all over America. There's been a dramatic reduction in ELA and in math scores. This goes along with the loss of students in school, with the increased violence that's happening and the behavioral problems that kids are facing. In my career of more than 45 years, I've never seen anything close to this.
And it's not hard to see how it happened. Experts say remote teaching and a lack of computers at home are to blame. Add to that the fear of watching your family members die, and it's no wonder millions of young people had trouble learning or even making it through the day.
We have seen an increase of 50% in the number of children presenting to our emergency department from the beginning of the pandemic to last fiscal year.
50%?
50%.
Kids who are in some sort of mental health crisis.
Yes.
So what did this place look like during the spike?
Oh, man.
Heather Husty, chief of psychology at Southern California's Children's Health Orange County, says even she couldn't believe how many kids needed help.
What we're saying, those of us in children's mental health, is it was burning embers even before the pandemic, and the pandemic came and just threw gasoline on that fire. We're seeing more and more kids come in who are having suicidal thoughts. We're seeing more and more kids come in who are like, my grades have dropped, I can't function anymore. And if we don't help kids sort of manage some of these mental health concerns, they can't learn effectively. These kids are struggling.
And here's something else that might take your breath away. A University of California study found that during the pandemic, kids spent an average of 17 minutes a day less on physical activity. Now, those 17 minutes might not seem like a lot, but over time, those small losses can really add up.
During the pandemic, some kids didn't go out at all, much less do any kind of exercise.
Racers! Are you ready? Yeah!
So now gym teachers, like Dan DeJager at Meraki High School near Sacramento, are playing catch-up. Instead of highly regimented sports and PE classes, DeJager runs a program designed to ease kids back into physical activity by having them do anything that'll get them moving again, like relay races,
Normal.
or frisbees, or whatever this is.
Stop. Left.
At this point in these kids' lives, these are the habits they're developing for the rest of their life?
It's like wet cement. We only have so much time to make a positive impression on our students. And so we want to use that time as wisely as we can and the best we can, and we've lost a little bit of that time. Now that we're back in person, we're trying to get there again.
Of course, keeping kids active can do as much for their minds as their motor skills.
Good fall through Vex.
Levels of activity for mild to moderate depression can be as effective as medication. So if we're active, if we're doing well at school, that can affect your mental health, and your mental health can affect those things as well. So you get that vicious cycle going, right? There's a linkage there.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
But the bigger picture here, according to educators like Jeffrey Canada, is that this could be a kind of lost generation, undereducated to the point where it drags down their future and ours.
I read one study that these kids' earnings, their lifetime earnings, will be affected in the tens of thousands of dollars.
There's a whole cohort of young people who are not going to get the kind of education that's going to allow them to get the best jobs. It's going to cost lots of kids tens of thousands of dollars over their earnings, some hundreds of thousands of dollars. We keep forgetting that this is about America. That 8-year-old is going to be 20 when you blink your eye and 25 in a short period of time. She needs to be an engineer. He needs to be a medical doctor. We need to start thinking about these kids as the resources for this country.
Canada says there are ways to fix this, like intensive tutoring throughout the week, extending the school day, and keeping classrooms open in the summer. Seems he knows what he's talking about. The Harlem Children's Zone, which takes kids, as they say, from cradle to college, has become a model for success, drawing attention from presidents and kings. So, how'd the pandemic hit them? They say math scores dipped a bit, but English stayed about the same. And in 2021 and 2022, 100% of the school's graduating seniors were accepted to college.
And then you see there's another staff member.
Harlem Children's Zone CEO Kwame Owusu-Kese says those numbers are proof that things like intensive tutoring work.
So you're paying your teachers extra to stay after school?
Absolutely.
Using tutors?
Absolutely. There's no replacing the work that needs to be done by shortchanging the investment in time, extra time for our young people in the classroom with the educators.
And there may be a silver lining for the rest of the country. Psychologist Heather Husty.
What do you think things are going to look like 10 years from now?
I feel like we could be raising a generation that's going to be a lot more attuned to people's pain, that's going to be a lot more attuned to helping each other, understanding the importance of connection, and that may actually lead us into a better place. So I remain an optimist, even as we've gone through a very hard time. I don't think we're through it yet, but I do think we can come through and be better.